All right, so I started by creating a new document. I called this one phone holder video since I'm making a video about it. Um, and I'll switch back and forth periodically between um, my picture here and the phone holder so we can get a sense of things. But just know that I'm looking at my sketch as I'm making this. So I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with maybe this front plate right here. Um, so yeah, let's start with that. So let's go back over here. So I'm going to do a sketch on the front plane, and I'm going to move this so I can see it. I made mine a rectangle. We could go back and edit this later, so we rounded off maybe the edges. But I'm going to start with a rectangle, and I'm going to start. I could start with a hole as well in here. So I'm just kind of sketching what I have there. You have to be a little careful that you don't add too much to your first sketch. So in other words, we only want one enclosed area. If we have multiple enclosed areas that we're sketching in here, Onshape's going to get confused. So we want essentially one enclosed area per sketch. I'm going to show you what I mean by that in just a second. So um, if you look here, Onshape actually doesn't know what we want to do with this. It doesn't know that this is a cutout. So essentially, I'm breaking that paradigm. If I draw this sketch and I have the cutout in there, it doesn't really know what's the cutout and what's the thing that you want to extrude. Um, so instead of adding a cutout in there, so I'm just Control Z. I'm removing that sketch. I'm going to start with just my blank rectangle, and then I'll add the cutout as another sketch in just a moment. So let's see, I specified that the length from the bottom, uh, so this overall length, I didn't really specify. Oh yeah, I did. I said appears 1 inch, 4 inch. I said it's an overall of 5 inch. Okay, we'll go with that. And then the width of it we said is 2.5 inches. So let's add our dimension. I'm going to click the left side. I'm going to move this over here. I can see it. We're going to make this an overall of 4 inches. And I'm going to make my width of this 2.5 inches. Excellent. And I'm going to go ahead and accept that, or I'm just going to be a little bit quicker on it. And I'm going to click extrude. It's going to take that as sketch and start the extrusion. Right click and rotate so I can see it. I want it to go back because I want my front plane to be my same, everything to be referenced off that front plane. So the depth here. So this is where I need to think about the plywood that I'm using. I'm going to use 1/8 inch plywood for the laser. So that means that the thickness of this is going to be 1/8 of an inch. You don't have to do the math there. You can actually just do 1/8. If it was in millimeters and you knew in the metric, you could actually type 10 mm and press enter, and it would do the conversion for you. That's pretty cool. Um, this is not in millimeters. This one's going to be in inches, so 1/8 of an inch. You could even type the inch there. I'm just going to do 1/8 because I know it's defaulted in inches. Go back. There we go. Select it. There it is. Actually lied. I said that I wanted it to go back, and then I changed my orientation and messed it up. So I'm going to right click on this extrude, edit, change the orientation, click the check. Cool. So if you ever need to edit these particular features, you can just right click on them and change them. So now I want to put a hole in here, basically put a slot. So we need to add in our slot that we've designated right here. So let's do that. So I said it's 1 inch from the bottom, and it's about 1 inch wide is what I specified. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going back here to my sketch. I'm going to actually sketch on the face of my phone holder now. So I'm going to select the, no longer one of the planes, I'm going to actually select the part to sketch on. And change my view. I'm going to click on the front so it makes it nice and flat for me. And I'm just going to put a rectangle in here. Just going to throw it down. I didn't pick a location. I didn't pick a dimension. I'm just kind of getting it oriented. And that's going to be my cutout. So one of the things that I already know is that the thickness here will be the same thickness as my plywood. So I'm going to just say that's 1/8 of an inch and throw it in there. I know that my width here is going to be 1 inch, according to what I wrote. And so you're probably trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I get this nice and centered? And so there's several ways to do this. In this particular case, it's a bit tricky because we've got this rectangle in space, and the reference is that we want this to actually be centered on this shape. And if you notice, there is a lovely little dot that shows up at the midpoint whenever I hover over this line up here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make something called a construction line. So what a construction line is basically a line that we're going to use to help us in constructing our sketch. So I'm going to go to line, and we can turn any line into a construction line. I'm going to go to the line tool, and I can go ahead and turn on the construction line right now, or I can add it later. But let's go ahead and turn it on now. And I'm going to hover over until I get this little square. That square means that I'm at the midpoint. You notice in the black icon there, it shows me that I'm midpoint. I'm going to drop a line vertically down to the next midpoint. That construction line also has definitions, just like any other line in the sketch. So it means that this particular line is fully defined because it's in black. So you're probably thinking, oh, okay, cool. So then I can take this rectangle and move it so that it sits at the midpoint. Well, not quite. We can do this a couple different ways. I'll show you one way. I'm gonna move this dimension over here. It's bothering me that it's not sitting on the dimension. So one way that we can get these two center lines to match up is think that we want the center line of this rectangle to match the center line of our overall rectangle. So let's go ahead and add another construction line, center to center. And I pressed escape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click one of these points. Let me zoom in here for you a little bit. Either one of these points or the line. But I'm going to click one of the points, and I'm going to drag it until I get this. See how it changes color? It goes to that kind of yellowy orange color. That just means that it's snapping to that. So the point gets connected to the center line. And look what happens when I do that. So now I'm going to see my constraint. So remember that blue means it's underdefined. So it means that we're missing some definitions on defining its location or lengths of stuff in our sketch here. So I'm dragging the part around to figure out what's not defined. So I can't move it side to side. I can't change the shape by clicking the corners. But if I click any of the points, the only thing I can do is move it up and down. So I've defined that it lives, this basically lives centered in this particular rectangle. But I haven't defined where it's sitting at. And if you go back to my original sketch here, I said, I really want this to be about 1 inch from the bottom. That's what I'm saying down here. So let's do that. So let's say, all right, well, my intent is I intend for the bottom of my phone, which is right there, and the bottom of this to be about 1 inch. About 1 inch. There we go. It looks about right. We might want to change that later, but we'll come back to it. So Let's go ahead and I'm going to extrude, but in this time, I don't want that because I can't laser an extra part out. Maybe if I were 3D printed, I would want this. But I'm thinking with a laser, I need to connect things together. Instead of a little lip that sticks out like that, I'm going to make a cut. And I'm going to make a cut by clicking remove. And I want it to go really through all. I could have it go up to the next face and select the face, but it's an extra step in there that I didn't really need to do. So I'm just going to make this go through all. So it would always cut through whatever I put in here. There we go, or whatever was there. So I'm going to click the check, and now I have what resembles kind of my phone holder there. Maybe something I neglected to say early on when I was thinking about laser cutting this is the stand part of my piece is another part that I'm just going to slide into this. So if we're thinking about, I'm going to make a little dotted line here to represent this part that snaps through, is behind my phone holder is this piece, and that piece is laser cut. So in other words, if I were to make this into two pieces, I would have the front where my phone goes, and then this little side piece, right? That right there is what goes through this hole. So that's what I'm thinking about. Right. So going back here, so I've got my hole cut out. I've got quite a bit of stuff done. So we're in pretty good shape. So in our next exciting video, I'm going to take this same design, and I'm going to make the other part, and I'll show you how to do that. Thanks for joining.